time is not on our side, so we shouldn't waste our time. So thanks to Sarah for this presentation on waste to energy and the work of the Gates Foundation on reinventing the toilet and really bringing innovation into this area. But without further ado, I'd just like to call the panelists onto the stage. I think we have Christopher from CNIM. We have Pierre from Enesis. We have Anne from Veolia, François from Suez Environment, and we have Mohamed Qureshi from BEA. So, as mentioned, time is not really on our side, so we'll try to really speed up because we still have a follow-up session after this, and I think we have to close by 6. Waste to energy, of course, one of the first things, and I think Sarah gave a very good overview of this from the perspective, is on the one hand, of course, what do we define as waste? What is waste for one person is a resource for another. And also keeping in mind our high, rapid urbanization with ever-increasing waste generation in cities, and also keeping in mind, if we look at wastewater, that nearly 80% of our wastewater which we generate is actually discharged untreated. And our solid waste streams in cities is also quite a challenge around the world. Quite a number of cities are suffocating under waste management and waste piles in their cities, and also not having safe disposal sites. So since actually Agenda 21 in 1991 and also the Habitat 2 agenda in 1996, I think there has been a lot which has been happening in the waste management sector for cities. And waste to energy, I think, is one of the most recent or one of the most promising developments in this area. And I think as a first step, we should maybe listen to our panelists to see from their perspective as what do they see over the last 20 years, what has been the potential of waste to energy. And maybe we could start off with Christopher on what is your perspective on waste to energy.
Hello. Hello. I've got just a few slides, just with 3 photos to show, to explain what is our business and what is our company. We are a mid-size French industrial group. We were born 160 years ago, and we are dealing for waste to energy since 50 years. We are the number one as EPC contractor in Europe, so as general contractor. And if it's possible to show some slides, it will be perfect. We have built 283 lines of waste to energy throughout the world. And this is one example of plants that we have built. This one is in Torino, in Italy. In fact, with all of our plants, we are recovering the energy from municipal solid waste from about 70 million people around the world. This plant in Torino, you see the Alps behind, is treating almost 500,000 tons of municipal waste per year. And we don't need absolutely any treatment, pre-treatment before. It is the waste as collected that are inside. Of course, if there is selective collection or pre-treatment or sorting, it is better for the environment. Another slide, this plant has been designed by Bertone for the architecture, this car design, who is based in Torino. On the next slide, please.
I don't know, maybe you try this one, I don't know if it works.
Yes, we are also operating some plants, very few. We don't want to be a competitor of my 2 neighbors too much, but we have some return of experience. We are operating this plant in Baku in Azerbaijan, which is not so far from the Middle East. I think it's the second one in the area after Qatar. And this is also treating 500,000 tons of municipal waste in Baku. In Azerbaijan, we have started the operation now 2 years ago for 20 years. What is very important for waste to energy is the flue gas treatment, because there are some pollutants in the municipal solid waste, and we have now very efficient flue gas treatment according also to regulation, and the most stringent regulations are on municipal solid waste to energy plants. And this is done by the leader in Europe, which is LAB, which is our subsidiary. This is the example, we can see this plant in a lot of places. This is the example of a very new plant of Copenhagen, Amager, where we are building all the flue gas treatment in this plant. And because of a very efficient systems we are providing, the air at the outlet of the stack is really without any impact on the environment. And there will be a ski slope on the roof of this plant, starting at 85 meters from the ground at the very top of a stack. So instead of the fresh air of the mountains, it will be the fresh air of lab for the treatment. And in fact, this is a question of the subject of this conference. Is it CO2 friendly, this type of systems? It is, but it is also environmental friendly and human friendly because of the treatment of the flue gas treatment. So therefore, and this is the last slide, we can build, and it is the aim, is to build the plant inside the city, and it is done for that. Amager is only 2 kilometers far away from the palace of the Queen of Denmark, but we have another example, which is in Monaco, where the municipal solid waste to energy plant that we have built is only 600 meters from the Prince Palace. You can see the aquarium of Monaco, the circuit of Formula One, and really the plant is in the middle of a city. And this is providing electricity, but also district heating and district cooling to the city. And you cannot know that there is a waste energy plant there. It is like a building for offices. There is no stack because of the flue gas treatment performances. And a lot of the waste are coming underground by pneumatic collection. So therefore, we think that yes, it's friendly and it is a very good and very cost-effective, a clean, a secure and affordable way to treat the waste.
Okay, thank you very much, Christopher, for sharing your experiences from your company in terms of waste to energy. I think we should maybe move on to Pierre to share with us the experiences from his perspective.
Well, thank you. Our perspective is slightly different, since what we consider is what nature does, and our technology is very much oriented towards what nature did already. Can you imagine a world where you have 32% of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere? This is what happened 500 million years ago. And we are simply doing now what something that gave us a planet where to breathe did for us 500 million years ago, which is a microalgae. By inventing photosynthesis, microalgae cleaned the planet from its carbon dioxide. It associated carbon to nutritive elements that were present in the water, and they released the oxygen in the air. This allowed, to reduce the temperature of the planet down to the temperatures we know today. This allows life. What we have today is a pollution that comes from humans. I'm not talking about pneumatics, because nature doesn't know how to treat pneumatics, tires, things like that. We are talking only about human waste, which is organic waste and toilets. What we do is that by observing nature, we first clean, thanks to bacteria, the water, then we have a clean water process that you know from here, and we inject the bacteria into food waste. By doing this, we generate a lot of gas. Gas creates electricity, and after that we have, of course, another kind of sludge, which is called digestate. Microalgae remove all the pollutants from the digestate, and we have at the end very good water and compost, and a very good biofertilizer. So for us, at no energy cost, because the energy is provided by the gas that comes itself from the transformation of the water and the food waste. So this solution has been developed for communities. It's a short loop solution that is being implemented in 2 countries today, with Maldives. Maldives are small islands, so they need this kind of technology. And Morocco. We are here because there is a big water stress in this country. And this technology allows to create fertile soils out of waste. Thank you, that's all.
Okay, thank you very much, Pierre, for this presentation. Maybe we could move on to Anne from Veolia.
Thank you. Working properly. Thank you. So my name is Anne Le Guenec from Veolia. Veolia is one of the world leaders in waste management. We provide our clients and hundreds of municipalities around the world with bespoke solutions for their integrated waste management. We're not a technology provider, but we have around 85 references in waste-to-energy plants that we have built with the majors of incineration, such as CNIM and others. But we also work with our clients and mainly with municipality to find out the best solution for them to manage their waste stream. It means that, as you easily understand and as you probably know, waste-to-energy plant is a kind of industrial plant. It has to be perfectly designed, and it has to be operated and maintained in such a way that it will run properly and actually deliver the right quality, the right quantity of energy, and the right quality for flue gas, respect the rejection in the air that are designed at the very beginning by the technology provider. Veolia is mainly an operator of that kind of plants, and we are running plants for more than 40 years, and they are still delivering properly. This is something that I would like to insist on. Technology is one thing, operation and maintenance is really important in that kind of project as well. Second point that I would like to focus on is that definitely before setting up that kind of technology, there is a need for a proper master plan and global integrated solution. Quantity and quality of waste that will be the inlet of that kind of waste-to-energy plant is crucial and will definitely design and draw the way it will run for years. We also accompany our client in designing some solution as digestion, composting, but also recycling and valorization that has always to be considered in parallel to waste-to-energy solutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. We'll move on to François from Suez Environment.
Yeah, good afternoon. François Venot, I'm in charge of the waste activity for Suez in the Middle East. It's always easy to come after Veolia because we have a fairly similar profile in terms of group and operations that we do. So as said, we are one of the worldwide actors and leaders in water and waste management services. Coming back to well, we have a number of references that I could also evoke, but coming back on waste to energy and maybe to understand the discussion that we're having now, I'd like to share with you a few thoughts that we have within Suez when we look at the waste-to-energy market in the UAE and more globally in the Middle East region. First, when we talk about waste-to-energy, we like it to be not only incineration plant. We are looking at the full range of options. We've heard about different types of technology, among which anaerobic digestion, but also we're looking at projects in terms of producing alternative fuel from a wide range of nature of waste. We're looking at tire, wood, we're looking at hazardous waste, we're looking at SRF, RDF, and then we truly believe that this region is a market that will quickly pick up for it, and that for two reasons. First, they have to move away from dump site landfill politic that has been taking place for many years, for CSR reasons, but also for different reasons depending on the country and from Emirates to Emirates. Some have a lack of space, which has a high value, and the footprint of a landfill is quite large. Some have a pure CSR meaning. Others start to have an issue of access to energy in part of the country. For example, in the south of Oman, it's quite difficult for an industry to obtain a gas quota, and that's where waste to energy provides an acceptable solution, both in terms of handling the waste and producing energy. Bringing me to the second point that I think is interesting for our discussion, is that when we talk about waste to energy, or at least mainly incineration plant or other types, we should always remember that yes, it produces energy, but first it's providing an acceptable solution and one of the best solutions for waste handling. And that's very important, because if local authorities, government, or deciding bodies look at it in the angle of energy, you'll quickly find yourself in a dead end, saying at the end, why do we need to burn waste to produce energy? It's too expensive compared to other alternatives. No, first it gives you a solution for your waste, and by the way, it produces energy. All those elements, the current situation of waste management in the UAE and in some of the neighboring countries, the strong objective that those countries are giving for themselves and publicly putting on the public place in terms of landfill diversion, in terms of waste valorization, will make it that things will need to happen if they want those objectives to be true on the short term. And that's even more complicated because what they will have to do is what other parts of the world did over a period of 15 to 20 years, and now they committed themselves to do it in a period of 3 to 5 years. So for us, it's a tremendous place to be at the moment, and we really look forward in the pickup of the waste-to-energy market.
Thank you very much, François. Now we'll go to Mr. Qureshi of BEA.
Okay, I'm from BEA. BEA is not unlike my friends who are international companies. We are only limited to the Sharjah presently. We collect almost serve the 1 million people and collect approximately 2.2 million tons of waste actually annually. And then we do the total integrated waste management from collection to the disposal, including the recyclables, reusing it out, all the materials. Today we have issues which are there that disposing this waste through the landfill and stuff that we are thinking of it going into the waste to energy plants actually. We are around 400 tons of waste that is going to the landfill, which we want to use it out for the waste to energy. Generate the energy and supply to the people back. But big issues here is the tipping fee, which is like Sarah previously told it out. There is no regulation on the tipping fee. Everybody charges his own fees actually. There are no fees also in some areas. So the waste to energy plants cannot survive without that thing. Second thing was the energy cost. People weigh it out, energy cost of the waste to energy equal to the energy generated from the conventional plants actually. So it cannot be. So the waste to energy plants cannot survive without government support here. The third thing is that people have a notion for the incineration plants. They see it out. Incineration plant means pollution comes here. So we don't want to burn it out, mass burning. So this education has to be given to the people. In Sharjah, we are trying to reduce it out, the waste collection also. We are trying to reduce it out per capita waste by educating the children and the elders actually. We have achieved certain percentage of improvement in that. Earlier we used to see it out around 2.4 kgs per capita. Now for the last over the 2 years, we saw it out, it is reduced by to 2.2 kgs per capita. So we feel it out that over a period of time, it will reduce it out to the considerable. Our target is to achieve it out 1.6 by 2020. So.
Okay, thank you very much. We've now really heard 5 perspectives from the private sector. And we've heard what the private sector has to offer in terms of waste to energy, which is quite promising. We've heard of a lot of examples around the world, but fact still remains in our current world, 80% of our wastewater is untreated. In many of the cities, 60 to 70% of our solid waste remain uncollected. So we also have to look at the other side of the table. Now, we don't have the other side of the table here on the panel. The other side of the table are the government officials, the city mayors, and the city authorities. And I would really like to ask the panelists, from their perspective, what would they like to communicate to the mayor of a city who is maybe not a sector expert, who's not a technical expert? What is the advantage of waste to energy for a mayor to engage into this? And I think our colleague from Kenya in the previous intervention made a very important statement saying, well, the politician, the mayor or the minister or the member of parliament on the other side has got a horizon of 5 years. So what is really the selling point of waste to energy to really convince and raise the awareness of a mayor to support waste to energy? And also, what are the sort of enabling environments? What is the legislation? What are the mechanisms which would make your work easier in working in a city to promote waste to energy? What kind of support would you like to communicate cities should extend to you so we can really scale up and make sure that 100% of our wastewater is treated, and using the technologies and the solutions you have, that 100% of our solid waste is collected and also used in terms of waste to energy systems to a maximum point? Who would like to? Yes.
I think what you say about mechanism is very, very important. I've heard this morning during the World Future Energy Summit conference somebody talking about solar development and renewable energy, and they were asking how to have a new market and new projects. And they were saying, okay, we need the sun, but we also need rules of law. And after, we need that we have cost-effective solution and cost-effective market able to afford these solutions. And I think the first step, and this is, okay, we don't need the sun, we have the fuel provided by the citizens. So this is a point that a difference between solar energy. Nevertheless, we need rules of law. And the very first and very easy to understand point is who is responsible of waste? Who is the owner of the wastes? And often this point is not clear in countries where regulation are starting about environment. Often the society is thinking that is the owner of the waste. But the problem is that often they don't have to pay anything for dumping. This is not landfilling, often this is only dumping, open dumping. And as they don't pay for anything for the dumping, nobody is asking who is the owner. Even in Europe, for example, in a country like Poland, this point has been clarified completely and precisely only 5 years ago. So, and even without this regulation, this law, it's therefore very difficult to implement important facilities. So this is a very important point to clarify. After, the main point is the protection of environment and the protection of health. Because for the landfill, and especially open dumps like that, first, there are, of course, and this is the subject of the conference, they are not at all climate friendly. This is not a sustainable solution. And this is leaving a problem to next generation, needing often remediation after. And so concerning climate, if we compare landfilling without any methane capture to waste to energy, in fact, with a waste to energy, we avoid 1.2 ton of CO2 by ton of municipal solid waste. So, because we avoid methane there, and also we avoid some fossil fuel consumption. It's So it's good for the climate. It's also very good for the environment, because landfill, it's polluting, especially a dump and dump, it's polluting the soil. It can pollute the air with the methane, but also if there are open fires in dams, this is very often the case, and also the water around the place. Of course, if it's in the desert, it's less, but the ISVA, the International Solid Waste Association, has released a report during the last Congress in September, showing that the biggest landfill in the world, concerning about 80 million people living around these landfills, they are more dangerous than malaria. Everybody is there to fight against malaria, but we should be also concerned to fight about this problem of waste release in the environment in open dams like that. Of course, with a controlled landfill, it's much better, but in a lot of countries, we don't have this type of things. Therefore, waste to energy is really a secure system. And just to finish, it's affordable. Just after the landfill, the abundance, of course, is in general costing nothing. A controlled landfill with all the methane capture, it's much more expensive. It's costing money first, so cities have to pay the services. And just after, it's waste to energy. Sorting, anaerobic digestion, composting, if you include everything together, so treating the refuses, and this is very important, they are more expensive. And that's why we have subsidies to do this in Europe. So therefore, in general, this is the first step to do.
I believe it's possible to answer straight to the point to your point, because you consider that mayors are just equals. And I'm sorry, but populations are not equals. In some countries, the objectives, the targets will be very different. In many countries, there is a lack of water. In many countries, you may consider to burn waste because you need energy. In many countries, you have something else to develop, which is food security. And I would not propose our technology to the mayor of Paris, because what would we do in Paris with water for and with fertilizer? I mean, we have a lot of water, we have a lot of plants already. We don't have these issues. In many countries, a technology like ours will be relevant. In some, it will not be. So it's really depending on the countries.
Okay. Yes, very important point. Yes.
Yes, I would like to well, first agree with Christopher about the fact that there is a need for policy and regulation, but definitely waste management is about long-term policy and long-term strategy. Yes, I think that in the Emirates, definitely we can consider that the policy is to divert from landfill, and that there's no question anymore about the fact that they think for quite a long time now about finding different solutions. So if we consider now waste to energy, and again, we also have to take into account the very specific context of the Emirates, and it can be quite similar to the countries around. That is that there is a unique patchwork of cultural behavior here in the Emirates, and I would like to recall what have been said by our colleagues from BIHA. Definitely, there is something very specific to think about here in the Emirates and here in the region because of this patchwork of culture, and because of the different levels of awareness of the citizens and of the population. There is, for a big part of the population here in the Emirates, absolutely no habits in terms of recycling, about sorting, about anything. So definitely, waste to energy is a real solution that can be put in place right now, which would be really easy to put in place because, yes, definitely this is a solution that apart from definitely getting everybody rid from waste, it produces energy, so this is a great solution. But again, it has to be thought on a long-term strategy. And I would like to just give you the example of a city in France where we have worked with a partner that can be considered as a startup working on modelization that was really, really interesting. They have, at the first time, designed their waste-to-energy plant for a certain capacity. And 10 to 15 years after, they have had to consider that the plant was much over-designed because of all the campaigns for valorization and recycling that they have put in place in parallel. So definitely the plant was over-designed, so that there is definitely a global strategy that has to be put in place, but again, considering the very specific context of the Emirates and of the turnover of population that we have here in the region.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I think you've really raised some, time is also rushing on, you've really raised some very important points in terms of first creating demand for waste management, improved waste management, and also waste to energy. I think you've raised two very important points. Really looking at raising the awareness of the population, the last point which you brought over, on waste recycling, reuse, and how we can recover the resources which are in the things which we're throwing away. So I think that's a very important sort of educational component, which I think both the private sector, companies, and the governments have a joint responsibility in having sort of these education programs. The second point I think which really comes out of this is also very important is to sensitize decision makers, to sensitize ministers, members of parliament, city councillors, mayors of cities on the importance of sound waste management practices and waste to energy. And here really using, and that's my experience of many years in the sector, using environmental and health arguments. This example of the waste dump and how many people are being affected in terms of morbidity and mortality in comparison to malaria, I think are very compelling arguments to stimulate policymakers to take interest into this area and then to use this momentum of actually within the decision makers of national governments or the local authority to set up some legislation or regulatory frameworks for you to come in to provide this service, be this through regulation on financing mechanisms or regulation on how wastewater or waste is made available to you as a resource. Because some of the companies will say, please give me the wastewater, I have a solution for it. Just have an agreement with me as a local authority and a company, give me all your effluents, I'll deal with it, I'll clean it for you, and I'll even make a profit out of it. So to this kind of component and the economic argument of this is also very important. And of course, the differentiated approach. One size fits all does not fit into the cities. We have to differentiate. We have to have a situation responding to the local geographic conditions in this. I was also hoping to really dwell a little bit also on financing to see how you see the mechanisms of financing. I don't really know if we have the time from the organizers, so maybe we'll keep that in mind in terms of financing. Before asking you sort of the last question, I just wanted to check in the audience if there's anybody who has a point of clarification or a question to you. If I don't see anybody, maybe after the session during the coffee break or after the session, they can pose it to you. And I'd really like to come to sort of the final question. If we look at the Habitat 2 conference, and the outcome document of the Habitat 2 conference in 1996 was the so-called Habitat Agenda. And if we really analyze what was written in the Habitat Agenda, there was no real mention of waste to energy. That concept 20 years ago was not featured in an international document. It was a little bit in Agenda 21, but also very vague. What is really written in the Habitat Agenda of that time is to minimize waste generated, to promote waste recycling and reuse, and then to focus on safe disposal of unavoidable wastes. But reality is we're still grappling with the situations. So from your perspective, in 2016 in Quito, there will be a new outcome document, which is called the New Urban Agenda. From your perspective of the private sector promoting and working in this area, what would you like to see reflected? What would you like to see mentioned in this new urban agenda to promote yourselves in terms of the work of waste to energy? Any thoughts on this? This is your opportunity to communicate to Quito, say, Suez, Veolia, all the companies. This is what we would like you to do for us.
Simply one point which is very obvious. Promote education for sort waste. We are talking about waste to energy, and we are mixing tires, food waste, any kind of waste, and as everybody knows, these waste don't have the same values, they don't have the same toxicity, they don't have the same use. And this is for me very, very, very important. Everywhere we go, we recycle only food waste, okay? Basically only organic waste. And all the other waste may be recycled another way, and this has a value. But you need to have people selecting the waste.
If I just may add, and I'll try to make the link with the financing question you're asking. At the end, I mean, there are many strategies that can be developed. Regulation is definitely the starting point for it to be a reality. It can take different forms, different level, depending on the country specifics. However, this is another principle that is very, very important, is that people should be accounted or be responsible for the waste they generate. And when I say they generate, it's either they produce and they are in the national or the same environment as the way they produce it. But if we talk more about Middle East or UAE, for example, most of the waste that is generated is probably bringing to the country by someone that is sitting outside of the country. So we should also try to develop what we call the extended producer responsibility. People that produce the waste should be accountable for it. There should not be any distinction between a household which have to pay taxes in the future for the waste that it generates, but also for the big multinational or companies that bring in loads of PET bottles, loads of glass bottles for which there are up-to-date, fairly low or non-existing solution into the country. People are always scared that it will bring a problem in terms of competitiveness. But if you, at the end, you make it smart enough that it tackles the whole sector, all of the producers, and that nobody has a competitive advantage to it, it's a solution that helps you finance, because we're always looking at the cost, and cost can appear to be big, but it needs to be compared to the real cost, sometimes hidden, for example, of having a dump site. What is the real cost of having a dump site? Today, maybe none, but tomorrow, you'll have to rehabilitate that land. You'll have to bear the consequences, economical or health, that are linked to it. So cost is something that can take different definition, and you need to correctly assess when you evaluate projects such as waste to energy. And last point, I think, and I believe, a way to speed up the process, maybe also in the current context of the oil price drop, is that the region should strongly consider the PPP structure. It might be a way to help speed up a number of projects and to help them continue to develop the waste management strategy without making compromise on other infrastructure priorities that they have in the region.
I have a point.
Okay, the last points then.
Yes. Waste generator has to be told that they have to own the waste, actually. Today, people don't own the waste. They say, oh, this is not my problem, this is the government's problem, this is the authority's problem. I only just generate whatever waste I want to do it out. So they are not aware, they don't know that it doesn't pinch on their pockets. So this is the issue in the Middle East countries, actually. They say it out, oh, waste, okay, it's a waste of waste. So they have no awareness. So people have to be made aware that this waste, you are generating it out, and it is taxable.
Okay.
If
Yes,
I can have
okay.
a final, very short word, I would like to emphasize the PPP mentioned by François. Definitely, I think that, again, we're talking about partnership when we talk about integrated waste management. There is a whole portfolio of solutions that have to be contemplated by the municipalities, and definitely has, again, to be contemplated on the long term. So I also think that PPP is a great solution, as it really talks about partnership and long-term partnership with the municipalities and the governments.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, the time is over, but I would like to just put the messages which you've put forward, because we will definitely pass them on to the Secretary General of the Habitat 3 conference. Really the strong message of education, of separating waste, separating the waste streams, to apply the polluter pays principle so that people or the generators of waste are held accountable for the waste, and they also own the waste in that sense, and put a tag to it, and really the public-private partnerships component. And these partners, I think these are, three very important messages which we'll pass on to Dr. Kloss, the Secretary General of the Habitat 3 conference. We look forward to seeing all of you also in Quito in October at the Habitat 3 conference. There'll be side events, there'll be exhibition areas and opportunities. And I think with that, I'd very much like to thank the panel for their excellent interventions and give them a very big hand. Thank you very much.